Welcome back to Velshi and Rule. A new book looks into the potential conflicts of interest of White House senior advisors and, of course, family members of President Trump, Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. And the author tells NBC Jared and Ivanka are, quote, perhaps more dangerous than the president. According to her, journalist Vicky Ward recounts Kushner hosting Chinese government officials at his 666 Fifth Avenue tower as the administration was trying to woo Chinese leadership. Right around the same time, news broke that Kushner had dined with an executive from China's Anbang, who was looking to invest in the tower. And remember, that tower was bleeding money. On the Middle East, Ward described then-Secretary of State Rex Tillerson blaming Kushner for President Trump's sudden endorsement of a blockade against Qatar by more than half a dozen countries led by Saudi Arabia. Kushner was also instrumental, according to Ward, in selecting Saudi Arabia as the president's first foreign trip. It was not until later that we learned Kushner's family company had courted Qatari investment in 666 Fifth Avenue, an investment the country finally did make. And as the president toured the Middle East, more about the Kushner's cozy relationship with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was revealed. Then there was the White House visitor log. This, to me, is the most important. In April 2017, the White House announced it would no longer publish logs of who was coming into the White House and why the visitors were there. At the time, the White House cited national security risks. But according to Ward's interviews, then White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus said the directive came from Jared after concerns over Jared meeting with the CEO of Goldman Sachs, an investor in Kushner's private real estate investing firm, Cadre. This is interesting. And remember, Lloyd Blankfein involved in Cadre. Mike Fascitelli, former Goldman Sachs partner, involved in Cadre. This is a major business for both Jared Kushner and his brother Josh Kushner. And when Jared did any sort of divestiture, it was just to his direct family members. Right. Joining us now, New York Times reporter Annie Carney. She has written about the book. Annie, we have to lead with this. Jared Kushner's spokesperson, his lawyer, has said this is a book of fiction. Here's the issue. They do not offer any specific rebuttals. I believe they said they didn't have time to go through it all, which is somewhat stunning. If someone wrote a tell-all book eviscerating you and your character, you're staffed up, and your lawyer, who's getting paid by the hour, certainly has time. For you, I know you've spoken to Vicky Ward and you've read the book. What stood out the most?
Well, first of all, it is an interesting tactic that this White House takes, just dismissing it completely out of hand. And then there's a lot in that book that has already been reported by other outlets, instead of shooting down some things that maybe they thought were particularly out of hand. But that's a separate subject. In terms of these conflict of interest issues that you're raising, I think that we just need to zoom out for a second and remember where this is all coming from, which is that Jared and Ivanka never divested from their private businesses when they went to work in the White House for Donald Trump. So in 2017, through various trusts and funds, they made, according to their financial disclosure form, between $82 and $222 million. Ivanka Trump made $5 million from her Ivanka Trump brand. So they are continuing to make money off of their private companies while serving in the government. Ivanka Trump disbanded her brand, but she still continues to get trademarks from China because she says it's to protect her name. So this has created an entire gray area where they go around the world and it's not clear, do they represent their business? Do they represent the government? That's how we got here to where we are.
And in fact, Jared and Ivanka's financial disclosures, and these are tough to look at because they're broad categories, but they indicate rising value in their assets from at least $140 million in 2017 to at least $180 million in 2018. Now, again, it's hard to know where that increase in assets is coming from, but there are people who take the view that they're enriching themselves personally over their ties to the White House.
Well, that is clear. Their businesses are doing well while they are taking a break from actually being active investors. But their funds are making money while they have these positions, and they're having access to these meetings, especially with Chinese officials and Saudi officials who are potential investors in Kushner companies, have an intense desire to see them when they are the president's, viewed internationally as the president's closest advisors. So there is definitely a benefit to them. And, Senators Elizabeth Warren last year raised questions about the conflict of interest, but it all comes back to this point that they didn't divest when they entered.
Why didn't they have to? Because Rex Tillerson had to sell out of all of his shares of Exxon. Gary Cohn had to sell out of what he owned in Goldman Sachs shares, and he even had to agree to have no communication for 2 years with executives at the firm at the Lloyd Blankfein level, while Jared Kushner didn't divest, and then inside the White House meets with Lloyd Blankfein, who is involved in the Cadre investment.
Well, this is a question. I mean, they were not appointed to a government position. These are not Senate confirmed positions. They had, the Office of Ethics said that this arrangement they came up with was satisfactory. But there are still a lot of questions. And House Democrats, if you go through the 81 document requests they made to people in the White House and in Trump world, 52 out of those 81 document requests asked for information and documents about Ivanka Trump's ties, foreign governments, and her business interests. So
why does Gary
the Democrats
Cohn
are looking at emolument questions for her.
But why did Gary Cohn and Dina Powell have to sell out of their shares of Goldman Sachs, their former employer, and fully divest, but Jared and Ivanka don't? They're all the same level.
That's a good question. What Jared and Ivanka say is this was an arrangement that passed muster with the ethics guidelines that they got at the time. Everything is different. This is the whole gray area that this administration is testing with family members serving in the administration. This is a completely unique situation.
Annie, thank you. Annie Carney is a reporter.
Maybe one of the reasons
with the
Walter
New York Times.
Schaub quit.
Yeah, the rules are a little bit different. If you have to pass muster with the ethics person at the White House these days, it's a whole different ballgame.
Whole other level.
Hey, MSNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down there and click on any of the videos here to watch the latest interviews and highlights. You can get more MSNBC for free every day with our newsletters. Just visit msnbc.com/newsletters to sign up now.